sorry about that. I, for some reason, had this thinking I was going live, and I hadn't been live yet. Oh my gosh. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel. I am Katie Joy from Without a Crystal Ball. If you follow my content here, you'll know that we keep track and abreast of all things Teen Mom and Teen Mom 2. We have been closely following the split of Jenelle and David Eason, and ever since she left him earlier this month. Now, if you remember, Jenelle left over the weekend to go to New York to meet with MTV producers to talk about her future on the show. According to her own statements in a restraining order that she filed in Davidson County in Tennessee, she left while David was sleeping, arranged babysitting or childcare for her children, packed only a few things, and never returned to the property after she left for that trip to New York. The trip in New York was supposed to be a check-in with MTV production to talk about her future in the show. Now, it's been reported that there was discussion about whether or not Jenelle would return to the show. However, at this point in time, our sources say that there are no current discussions about her coming back. And at this point, the contract between MTV and Jenelle remains open, with no plans on her returning. That doesn't mean things can change. Teen Mom 2 ratings have not been great this past chunk of the season, so anything is possible. At this point, Jenelle cannot do anything else because she's in what's called an open contract that prohibits her from doing other reality TV work or signing contracts with other companies. It's kind of entertainment limbo. Now, in the middle of all this discussion on whether or not she would return to MTV, she's also been in the midst of a very messy divorce with her soon-to-be ex-husband, David Eason. Shortly after she left for New York, she filed for a temporary restraining order in Tennessee against her husband, David. In the documents filed in Davidson County, she alleged 11 different incidences in which David had either been physically, emotionally, or mentally abusive to her in the course of her 2-year marriage. She had described an incident in February of 2017 where he walked around the house and told her that she should die for all he cared. She also described an incident where he locked her son Kaiser in a car and laughed at him while he remained scared. She discussed multiple incidences of physical abuse, and the judge, based on all the documentation that she provided to the court, granted her request for the TRO. Shortly after news broke, there had been some discussion that she had actually been served, that David had been served, and that they would meet up in Davidson County on November 25th. Well, we started getting word late yesterday that there might be a hiccup in the court date this morning. Yesterday, when we were on Davidson County's court website, we checked the docket for the circuit court. On the circuit court, there was a time listed for the TRO hearing between Jenelle and David. They were slated and scheduled to meet in court this morning at 9 a.m. However, by 9 a.m. by 8 a.m. this morning, they had been removed from the schedule. In fact, it was completely off the schedule. Confusion abound because, according to sources connected to Jenelle, there was question on whether or not David had been properly served. According to our sources, North Carolina had not notified Tennessee that David had been certified in his service of having to go to court, or notified officially by the court that he needed to appear in court on the 25th. Because they had not been given any sort of certification that the summons and the service happened, Jenelle's camp feared that he might be trying to avoid service. Well, upon learning all of this and the fact that they had not received any sort of certification from North Carolina, ultimately what happened was Jenelle's camp finds out late yesterday, that the case is likely to be continued. Yikes. So what happened? Well, even though there was concern about whether or not the service had actually taken place, David showed up to court today. Not even lying. I got word this morning, shortly, about an hour or two ago, from Jenelle's camp that David was at court. But they had no expectation of being there because the court case had been taken off the docket. Can you even imagine? He shows up to court. It's not on the docket. It sounds like almost like confusion between Tennessee and North Carolina, to be honest. And then there was some confusion abounding about, did Jenelle need to show up? Did her attorneys need to go? What happened? What's going on? Okay, so here's what happens. David shows up to court, and finally, about 45 minutes ago, we get word from sources connected to Jenelle that the case was officially continued to December 11th, 2 weeks from today. So unfortunately, some either legal snafu, some like processing snafu, or some fact that maybe David didn't get served, or that the service processor never notified them, or the certification never happened. It was apparently supposed to happen by certified service, and North Carolina didn't notify Tennessee. David clearly knew about it, but the hearing never happened. Yikes. So what happens now? Well, there is question about whether or not David had been served, because in the past few weeks, David certainly has not been acting like he had been served when he had been on social media. One of the stipulations of this restraining order was that David was not to speak about Jenelle, Ensley, or Kaiser on social media. He was not to contact her in any means through third parties, and he was supposed to refrain from any sort of discussion about her. But that hasn't stopped him at all, which begs the question was, did he avoid the service? Did he know about the date, but he just showed up? Because theoretically, if he had been served and he knew that the service had gone through, then he shouldn't have been talking about her all this time. And all of that could have been deemed as a violation of the TRO. He didn't seem at all concerned about that in the last few weeks because he's called her so many names. He's accused her of not taking care of her children, not having any sort of connection to her children. He's accused Nathan of all kinds of things. He's been talking about Ensley. He's been saying he's happier without her. He's been saying that, she was super lazy and he did everything around the house and she never let him get a job. And that made a lot of people wonder, why is he talking about her so freely if there's an active TRO? Could this be the reason? This is ridiculous. Well, according to our sources, Jenelle was devastated when she found out that this had to be continued. She had been eager to move forward and try to get everything set up and move forward and be done, and get everything set in place so that she could feel safe along with her children. So at this point, the TRO remains in effect for 2 more weeks, and they will meet in court to discuss next steps. So what will happen is, in the hearing, the judge has already provided that they've granted a temporary one, and now David will have to prove to the court either there's no reason for this and dispute the allegations that she has provided to the court and defend it, or the court will side with her. Jenelle, when she's in court, has no responsibility because she's provided all the evidence at this point in time to the court for why she would like this order of protection. And clearly, the way that he's been acting on social media in the past few weeks is indicative of a man that definitely has some loose cannons here and could potentially be a threat to Jenelle and to David. Now, if you're wondering, how is Jenelle and how are the kids doing? According to our sources, Jenelle actually fled with nothing following her split from David. She met with MTV producers shortly before, fled in the middle of the night. When she came back, picked up her kids, she had only the clothes that she had packed in her suitcase, according to our sources, and then she took her kids to Tennessee. The kids had minimal belongings, minimal. She has, apparently, according to OK Magazine and to Radar Online, moved into an apartment, but it remains mostly unfurnished because she literally left her entire life back in North Carolina. That's how serious the situation was and how fearful she was when she left. At this point, the kids don't have a lot of stuff. Jenelle apparently doesn't have a lot of clothes, and she would, according to our sources, love to be able to retrieve all of her belongings at the land. But until this gets set up, obviously, she does not feel safe. Everyone on her end is kind of living in limbo while David just sort of lives off the land and enjoys all of the property that the two of them accumulated in their 2-year marriage and widely purchased due to her over $400,000 income she made from Teen Mom 2. This was probably not the outcome that Jenelle was looking for today, and probably, I'm assuming, there was a level of devastation here where she had probably wishing that this would just end. And David, I still can't figure out, how did this happen? How did he not get served? Or was it a clerical error? Was it because it was between 2 states? He showed up, meaning he knew about the court date, but he didn't act like he had the TRO in the last few weeks. I have a lot of questions here and can't really figure out what's going to happen. But we're going to have to hang tight for a couple more weeks to learn more. Hopefully this means that David is officially served, and now, due to that, any continued talking about her or threats made to her or even discussion of Ensley online would be a violation of this temporary restraining order. Let's hope that the next 2 weeks move quickly. We're moving into the holidays, which is a really tough time for kids. They're in a brand new place. It's going to be messy, and it's going to continue to be messy for this family. We will continue to wish the best of luck to Jenelle and safety for her kids and wellness for them. And if you have questions, concerns, or want to talk more about the situation, leave some comments below. Make sure you give me a thumbs up before you leave. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram, follow me at Without a Crystal Ball. You can also follow me on Twitter at WOA Crystal Ball, or you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Without a Crystal Ball. I'll be back in a little while, and we'll talk about Sinjin and Tanya from 90 Day Fiancé. Rumors are swirling that she's pregnant and they split up. All right, you guys, I'll be back in a little while. Bye.